Hello and welcome to Solar Alberta's 2025 Solar Show, our 11th annual. Today's session is called Solar 101. Please note that we have enabled closed captioning for this presentation. You can turn the captioning on in the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll be recording this session and making it available on our website and YouTube channel following the show. My name is Heather McKenzie and I'm the Executive Director at Solar Alberta. I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge that I'm hosting you today and working day to day from Amiskwaciwaskahigan, also known as Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, which is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homelands of the Otipemisiwak Métis Nation. Treaty 6 territory is the traditional gathering place and home of many Indigenous peoples, including the Papachase, Nehewak or Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Blackfoot, and Nakota Sioux. Nations whose ancestors have cared for and nurtured these lands since time immemorial. We were delighted to have so many people register for this week and for this event in particular. To start, we really want to thank Solar Club for sponsoring this exciting session today. We're happy and grateful to have them as a sponsor. Today we'll be hearing from one of our board members, Leanne Walker. Unfortunately, Grace wasn't able to join us today. Following the presentation, there will be a question and answer period in which you can all participate. We'll be using Zoom Q&A for questions rather than the chat box, so please enter your questions in the Q&A section. And you can also click on the little thumbs up symbol to upvote the questions you like. We're going to be pulling primarily from the upvoted questions. The entire session will wrap up in an hour. To begin, I'd like to encourage you all to check out our online trade show to view their exhibitor booths, which include a listing of key solar-related services, contact info, and video introductions. Please click on the link in the chat. Before we move forward, we're going to do a quick poll to get a sense of who we have joining us today. Please take a minute to answer the questions popping up on your screen now. And while some are still doing the poll, I encourage you to take a minute to pop your name, land acknowledgement, any contact info you're comfortable sharing in the chat now and throughout the event so that others can look you up on LinkedIn and you can stay connected. All right, let's see who we've got in the room today. Just gonna give you a couple more seconds to fill out that poll. As I suspected. Okay, so we've got a majority of solar curious people, which makes perfect sense at this event. Lots of solar industry folks here to help chat with you in the chat, chat with you in the chat, and of course some friends and folks who are quite knowledgeable as well. So thank you for joining us. Happy to have you all here today. All right, just want to share a tiny bit about you before we dive in. About us, actually, not you. We just chatted about you. Now about us. Solar Alberta is now in our 34th year of operation. We're a nonprofit society that is dedicated to accelerating Alberta's transition to a just and sustainable energy future. We do so by advocating, educating, and serving as an industry and community hub for solar energy. Our membership is made up of over 220 individuals and over 160 businesses. We also have over 31,000 followers. We provide a number of services, including managing a solar directory through our website. In this way, we act as a bridge for installers, suppliers, and other solar-related businesses to connect with their customers and clients. Our directory gets over 48,000 hits each year. You can see a link to it in the chat. We're once again offering some affordable courses for solar industry professionals or those looking to transition into the sector. Most of our courses are online on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. First up is Solar PV Systems Design and Modeling. That starts next week, Tuesday, February 11th. And on the first weekend in April, we're also offering an in-person course in Calgary, Solar PV Systems Commissioning, Operations, and Maintenance. We're once again offering our solar training course bundle. This is a bundle that includes 3 of our technical courses at a discounted rate. On-demand recordings of our courses are also available for sale alongside our paid workshops in the solar training video section of our website. In addition to our courses, we run a number of educational programs, including our solar seminar series and a number of in-person and online networking events each year. Our next solar series session is Alberta Agrivoltaics 101, Solar and Farms Unite. It will take place on March 20th at noon. Registration for this session can be completed through the link in the chat. And we're also popping in a link for our March 11th Solar Women's Gathering as well. It's not too late to register for other sessions this week at the Solar Show. For all of our 8 sessions, registration will close 1 hour before them. So you have 6 more to go, and you can register for them at any point until an hour before. In addition to providing education about solar, we do advocate for it. We are currently rising up for renewables. We do have free lawn signs available for pickup in 10 municipalities, and we offer free delivery in 8, thanks to our wonderful volunteers. We have template letters as well for you to use. They're on our website. One of them is asking the government of Alberta to eliminate the new and discriminatory buffer zones that they have established for renewable energy. You can click on the link in the chat to make a free sign order or find our template letters today. If you're not already, please consider joining as a Solar Alberta member. Individual memberships are typically $35, but are on sale this week for 20% off. They can be purchased at the link in the chat. And if you're looking to support our work in other ways, please consider volunteering or donating. On the topic of volunteering, we do have one position coming available on our board of directors. This position will be filled at the May 7th AGM. If you're interested in becoming a part of the Solar Alberta board, please use the link in the chat to apply by March 16th. And with your help, we are recognizing longtime dedicated contributors to solar in Alberta by gifting them a free lifetime Solar Alberta membership. So if you are a current Solar Alberta member and you know someone who has contributed significantly, then please consider nominating them for this award. We will accept nominations until April 16th, and the award recipients will be announced at our AGM. Finally, just want to ask that you please consider participating in our 50/50. It's going to be wrapping up this Friday, February 7th at 12:55, just at the end of our solar show, and it's already over $2,200. And now, I am delighted to get this session underway by introducing Dan Butel of Solar Club, our sponsor for the day. Dan's going to tell us a little bit about Solar Club and then introduce our speaker. So welcome, Dan. Really pleased to have you with us again.
Thank you, Heather, and a big thank you to Solar Alberta for hosting this session. My name is Dan Butel. I'm the Solar Club Manager at UtilityNet, and I've always looked forward to the Solar Alberta Solar Show each year, and I'm excited to be here today representing the Solar Club, sponsoring this Solar 101 session. So when the Solar Club was launched back in 2019, the vision was simple: accelerate the transformation of Alberta's power grid towards a reliable and sustainable future through a unique rates and benefits program, allowing Albertans to play an active role in achieving a net zero economy. As we welcome 2025, we reflect on the Solar Club's record-breaking year as Alberta's original Solar Rewards program. For the very first time this year, Solar Club members are collectively net positive in a single year based solely on exports to the grid. In 2024, our members collectively exported 56 million kilowatt hours of green energy to Alberta's grid, maintaining an overall net positive energy contribution relative to 52 million kilowatt hours imported from the grid. In dollar terms, our members received a total value of $14.9 million in 2024, which is made up of $14.6 million for energy exported to the grid, nearly $180,000 in cashback benefits, and over $40,000 in renewable energy certificates, representing 2.6 million kilowatt hours of green energy resupplied to the grid. These figures underscore the growing magnitude of our members' contributions and the strength of Alberta's solar community as a whole. So thank you for being part of this incredible journey, and be sure to visit us on solarclub.ca to learn more about how you can become a member. I would now like to introduce your presenter for the session, Leanne Walker. Over the past 5 years, Leanne has dedicated herself to her profession in renewables, driven by a profound passion for clean and sustainable energy. Working in the electrical industry, she has had the privilege of witnessing the transformative power of solar firsthand. Serving on the board of the Alberta Electrical Alliance for the past 2 years, she is actively engaged in networking and educating others on the crucial importance of embracing solar and other renewable energy sources for a greener, more sustainable future. I'll now pass the mic over to Leanne to begin the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dan, and hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our Solar 101 presentation. We will provide a brief overview of the solar sector in Alberta. We will explain how a typical solar installation works on a home or a business in Alberta, as well as the many financial considerations related to residential solar specifically. We will conclude by explaining how to find a solar installer. All right, so let's get started. As you likely know, solar used to be seen as some risky investment, but now it is accepted as a logical and necessary component of a diversified energy sector that will continue to grow usage and market share. And this shift in perception is illustrated by the impressive growth the solar industry has experienced in Alberta historically, which we'll provide some more details on shortly. The slide above shows some pretty cool examples of commercial microgeneration around Alberta. A quick note to start, when we talk about the growth of solar in Alberta, we're mostly talking about solar photovoltaics or solar PV and not solar thermal. Solar PV harnesses the sun's light to produce electricity, while solar thermal harnesses the sun's heat, usually to heat water. Solar PV is really taking off in Alberta, and it works well in northern climates because solar PV actually has better production capability in the cold. There are a wide range of solar systems in Alberta. Anything under 5 megawatts, which is actually pretty big, is considered to be micro or small scale generation in our province. You've likely spotted a solar array or two on your home in on a home in your neighborhood, and these residential systems are very, very small, usually around 7 kilowatts. Microgeneration arrays are under 150 kilowatts are usually considered small microgeneration systems as well. Larger microgeneration systems over 150 kilowatts, often called commercial systems, can power bigger buildings like businesses or municipal centers. Under the Government of Alberta's microgeneration regulation, all microgeneration installations in Alberta, whether residential, commercial, must be sized to produce equal to or less than annual on-site electricity consumption. For example, if your household currently consumes 500 kilowatt hours of energy per year, you cannot install a solar system that will produce more than 5,000 kilowatt hours over the course of a year. Now that you know what microgeneration is, let's have a look at some of the growth in solar on homes and businesses in Alberta. Here is a graph of that growth from 2014 to 2025. As you can see, it has grown at an incredible rate in the last 11 years. In 2014, we only had approximately 1,000 microgenerators on the grid. By 2020, we've had over 5,000 homes and businesses with solar in Alberta, and in just 5 years later, we've had over 30,000 systems. In 2020, we were getting about 100 new sites a month, and now we're getting more than 1,000 new sites a month. We have also seen tremendous growth in the utility scale systems in Alberta, which are also called solar farms or solar power plants. Systems that have the capacity to generate more than 5 megawatts of energy are classified as utility scale. These have been in the news a lot over the past few years as they have become increasingly difficult to build because of recent actions taken by the Government of Alberta. But we can still see that utility scale generation has experienced enormous growth in recent years. In 2017, Alberta had 15 megawatts of utility solar generating capacity. For context, when that first solar farm came on the grid, it generated more electricity than all of the 1,500 homes and businesses with solar at that time. By November of 2024, solar farm capacity totaled over 1,800 megawatts. Microgeneration also increased to 31,000 systems in that time. To contrast the production from these two streams, microgenerators in the province today only constitute 333 megawatts of installed capacity, and solar farms are anticipated to add over 16,000 megawatts more generating capacity by 2029. While microgeneration systems are only allowed to install a system that offsets their on-site electricity consumption, utility solar producers can generate as much electricity as the Alberta Electrical System Operator approves them to. So they can maximize the solar energy generating potential of their site and participate in Alberta's energy market just like any other power plant. Of course, in order to produce energy at this scale, solar farms must jump through many hoops that do not apply to microgenerators. They require a large amount of upfront capital and can take many years to reach commissioning. Despite all of this growth, solar only makes up a very small percentage of Alberta's total electricity generating capacity, and demand for electricity is expected to continue to grow with the increasing electrification of homes, heating, vehicles, and AI centers. So we have a long way to go to meet the goal of net zero electricity. In addition to microgeneration and utility scale solar projects, the community solar space is also emerging in Alberta. Community generation is where a group of people come together and invest in a solar development that is not on their own property. A number of cooperatives, community leagues, and Indigenous nations are leading the way with community generation in Alberta. Above is the Renfrew Solar Carport at the Spark Science Center located in Calgary. It has 2,292 solar panels, which produce 1.2 million kilowatt hours of electricity annually. While community generation is still in its early stages in Alberta, it has the potential to allow apartment dwellers, renters, and others who don't have a solar appropriate roof an opportunity to contribute to solar production in Alberta and experience the associated financial benefits. We have numerous free webinars about community generation that you can find on our YouTube channel. So what exactly is driving all of this growth? There are many reasons why Alberta has become Canada's solar powerhouse, but as you can see on this map from the Government of Canada, Alberta is only next to Saskatchewan in terms of solar generation potential. We are currently the only province in Canada where a private solar power developer can sell power directly to customers through a power purchase agreement, and investors clearly see the potential. In 2023, Alberta received 85% of Canada's overall investment in solar and wind. Another reason for the growth of solar PV, not just in Alberta, but around the world, is that the cost of solar has also come down a lot in recent years. Between 2010 and 2020, the cost of solar dropped by about 90%. And finally, we have had good renewable energy targets. In 2017, Alberta's Renewable Electricity Act legislated the goal of generating at least 30% of our province's electricity from renewable sources by 2030. Setting concrete goals like this has also helped set the stage for growth of solar in Alberta. And as a result, the province is actually on track to meet this 30% renewables target well before the 2030 goal. So now let's turn to how solar generation works on a typical home or a business in Alberta. Imagine that this is your home. First, sunlight will hit the solar modules that are installed on your roof, number 1 on this graphic. In the Northern Hemisphere, south-facing roofs get the best sun, but flat roofs or east and west-facing roofs will also work. The PV modules convert sunlight to DC or direct current electricity. The electricity then travels to the inverter, which is indicated by number 2. This converts the DC electricity into AC, or alternating current, electricity that will power your home. This electricity is then fed into your house's main electrical panel, which is shown by number 3. From here, the electricity generated by the solar system can go one of 2 directions. When you install solar, you get a bidirectional meter from your utility, shown on number 4. This will keep track of both the electricity taken from the grid as well as the electricity put back onto the grid. If your house is not consuming all of the electricity your installation is generating, then the extra electricity can go back to the main power grid, which is indicated by number 6, because this is not being used by the household. This will show up as a credit on your electricity bill. If your house is using a lot of electricity when your installation is generating, then the electricity from the solar system will then be used to power that is using electricity in your home at that time first, before sending anything to the grid. Number 5 indicates home appliances or an EV, which is using some of the setup which you are generating on your roof. Since this energy is coming directly from your solar system rather than the electricity grid, you aren't being charged anything for that electricity. When you're calculating the maximum size of your PV system, an installer will typically review the homeowner's energy bills from the previous 12 months. As already mentioned, under Alberta's microgeneration regulation, the maximum size of a home system will be based on the home's typical annual energy usage. In Alberta, homes with solar energy will almost always remain connected to the utility grid. This allows the grid to serve as a backup electricity source that will then supply the home with electricity when it needs more power than the system can produce. For instance, at night, when it's cloudy, or during the darker winter months. This grid connection is important for ensuring a reliable electricity supply. Also, the home's connection to the grid is what enables the homeowners to generate credits in the summer when they are producing more electricity than what they need. So what will solar do for you? Getting solar for your home will reduce 2 utility bill components. First, it will reduce the amount you pay for electricity usage with a properly sized system. If you have enough good roof space over the course of the year, you can save close to 100% of the of the energy charge component of your bill. This is the amount of power in kilowatt hours that you consume at your home. You won't need to pay the utility company for that because they're no longer making your electricity. But it is important to note that this isn't an immediate thing. What you'll want to look at is your electricity charge over the course of the year, because the credits you generate in the summer will then offset those less sunny winter months when you are importing and buying more electricity from your retailer. Second, solar will reduce the variable component of what you pay for transmission and distribution. Transmission and distribution fees cover the electrical infrastructure that's needed to connect you to the grid. These costs both have a fixed and variable component. The fixed component will not change regardless of how much electricity you use in that month. But solar can help reduce the variable component, which changes based on the amount of electricity you use. So essentially, to sum it up, there are many benefits to solar, but it will not fully reduce your transmission and distribution costs or eliminate administrative or local access fees. These are fixed costs that come with simply just being attached to the grid. And you should always be wary of a salesperson who tells you solar will reduce your bill to zero. Solar is also unlikely to impact your home or water or heating charges, because heating is powered by natural gas for most homes in Alberta. If you want to reduce your heating charges and move towards a full net zero energy, you can switch electric devices that your solar system can power, such as a heat pump for heating and cooling your home, or a heat pump for water heater. Here in Alberta, we can choose our electricity provider. So the cost of electricity will depend on the retailer. Many Albertans can choose the regulated rate or seek a competitive price retailer, 12 of whom are currently members of Solar Alberta and can be found on our directory. All retailers will offer different rates. To shop around for an affordable rate, Albertans can use the Utilities Consumer Advocates cost comparison tool. It lays out all of the different retailers available in Alberta and their different rates. Your electricity retailer may also offer a solar-specific retail plan through which you can opt into different electricity rates, higher during the summer if you are overproducing and lower during the winter when you will be underproducing. This can be beneficial because it allows you to export electricity from your home to the grid at a higher rate when your system generates more electricity in the summer, and pay less in the winter when you are not generating as much electricity. In order to hold your retailer accountable to the Alberta Solar Business Code of Conduct, though, you should be primarily plugging the 12 retailers from our directory into the cost comparison tool. Our code of conduct is found under the Consumer Protection tab on our homepage, and our directory is found under the Go Solar tab. We are providing a link to both in the chat at this time. If you're interested in solar for your own home, you can rest assured that the knowledge that renewable energy and energy efficiency are home improvements that pay for themselves. Solar panels are generally warranted for about 25 years, and they can actually last up to 40 years. So they will add value to your home for quite some time and will pay for themselves over time by reducing your monthly electricity bills. It is important to keep all of these benefits in mind when you're thinking about your solar system's return on investment. Nowadays, a typical home install can cost anywhere between $10,000 to $30,000, which will take about 7 to 15 years to pay back. Your installer will calculate your estimated payback time as part of the initial quote process. Your payback will depend on your particular circumstances and can differ significantly from region to region, even around the province, as well as the size and cost of the solar array, the amount of electricity you consume, and the mechanism you choose to finance your installation. And as we mentioned earlier, your system will be sized to cover your current electricity usage. This means you can improve upon your system payback time by taking steps to further reduce your electricity consumption, or by completing the energy efficiency upgrades like switching to energy efficient appliances or adding insulation to your home after solar installation has been completed. And finally, another consideration for the overall cost and payback time with solar is the property value increase. There isn't a whole lot of data available in Canada yet regarding the home resale value of solar, but research in the US has shown that homes with solar powers typically sell for 4% more than those without. This is likely because a house with solar panels already installed will have significantly reduced future electricity bills, which many home buyers appreciate. And because solar panels are typically warranted for 25 years and actually last much longer than that, they are a long-term improvement to a house. Although an installation of $10,000 to $30,000 is a lot for many many Albertans to afford, there are new and low and no interest solar financing programs available to help. In many municipalities around Alberta, SEEP is being implemented. SEEP stands for Clean Energy Improvement Program and is Alberta's version of a program that is often called PACE in other jurisdictions. It is a financing approach that allows for solar or energy efficiency upgrades to be financed through property taxes and have the cost of the upgrade tied to the property rather than the property owner. If a municipality has SEEP financing in place, then potential solar owners sometimes do not even need to put any money down, and they can begin to pay back the cost of the solar installation on a monthly basis, often over 20 years, with low interest rates. Additionally, with SEEP, that monthly payment can be passed to the next homeowner if the new homeowners move in before the previous homeowners complete the payments. Some SEEP programs will pay out for the upfront costs and then will pay the contractor directly for the remaining costs when the project is complete. Each municipality is running their program a little bit differently. Sometimes there might be additional costs associated with a solar array if your roof electrical wiring needs to be upgraded or replaced. In the case of SEEP, these can often be partially included in the financing. You can check out myseep.ca for more information about this new program and see where your municipality is at in the SEEP adoption progress. Additionally, there is the Canada Greener Homes Loan available. The Canada Greener Homes Loan is a zero interest option for up to $40,000 that you can pay back over a 10-year period. More information about both of these programs can be found for free on our website or our YouTube channel. If you are doing a deep energy retrofit and need more than either of these programs provides, you can sometimes be combined for a total of up to $90,000. All right, so now you know all about solar in our province, installing solar and incentives that you might qualify for. So of course you're wondering how to find somebody to do it. So we've got you covered. An excellent resource for finding a solar installer in Alberta is the Solar Alberta website, www.solaralberta.ca. On the website, you'll find a map that shows solar installations near you, as well as our solar directory. Our directory lists over 160 Alberta business members, and you can see helpful information like how many systems a company has installed and how long they've been in business. This can really help you start and narrow down your search. You can also submit a request for proposals or quotes from companies you're interested in right on our website. We recommend you get at least 3 quotes. You'll want to compare the quotes to determine how long the warranties are for and their workmanship, as well as what their process is for maintenance. Inverters usually have around a 10-year warranty, and solar modules typically have a 25 to 30-year warranty. Warranties for workmanship itself differ by company and usually run for 2 to 10 years. When getting quotes, we also recommend that you request references and proof of insurance from the companies. We also recommend that you compare the installers' financing options. Financing options change often, and your installer is going to be your best source of information for this widely varying field. So before we jump into the Q&A, I just want to get one question that we almost always get asked about, and that's snow. Did you know that snow doesn't impact solar energy production very much? The graph above shows a typical solar production curve in Alberta over the course of 1 year. You can see that not much energy gets produced in November to February. The primary reason for lower solar energy production in these months is because there's much less light than during other months. Fortunately, as you can see, the production in the summer makes up for the losses in the winter. And as long as you have adequate roof space, your installer can ensure that your system is sized to offset your consumption over the full course of that year. In fact, a recent NATE study determined that snow cover only reduced winter productivity by about 3% because it arrives right around the same time that we have most darkness in Alberta and because it melts off the solar panels quite quickly on warmer days. Your solar panels might get a bit of snow cover, but cleaning off is not recommended. When you try and clear your panels of snow, you risk damaging the panels themselves, and that will have a much greater impact on the efficiency of the solar panels. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you so much for spending your lunch with us today, and we'd love to open up the floor to questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Leanne. And we do have Grace, our other board member, joining us now for the Q&A. Grace, can you join us on screen for the Q&A?
Hi, I can unmute myself, but it says that somebody else has to unmute or has to show my video. But I am here.
Okay.
Yay.
Welcome. We're so glad you could join us. All right, let's see if we can turn your video back on.
All
I'll
right.
just ask Amanda. Oh, there you are. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, we really put Zoom's security protocols to the test, and it turns out that they are very secure once you've been removed from a meeting by the host.
Okay, so it's very tight. We were having
It
some
is.
audio issues. We're glad you're back. So I see there are a whole bunch of questions already in the box, so thank you for those. And I'm just going to encourage everyone to use the Q&A box rather than the chat for questions today. And make sure you upvote questions as well. I see that there's already some upvoting happening though, so let's go right into it. All right, Bob is wondering, why are we limited to equal or less than what we as a consumer are able to put back into the system? I live on a farm and would like to build my new shop to maximize and optimize the build. Great question, Bob. And we are going to have a session for farmers on Friday. With farms, there's a little bit of variety. Depending on the farm, you can sometimes actually go to a limit that has more to do with your customary usage. So, for example, if you have drought years the year before, you might be able to actually look at an average over 3 to 5 years instead. So that's something we're going to talk a little bit more about on Friday at lunch, because there's a little bit more flexibility for farms in Alberta than your typical home. Also, another option, if you really want to max out your roof, or your land, and you don't want to just have to conform to the micro generation regulation, there's actually the small scale generation regulation in Alberta, and it was created for folks like you, Bob. We actually have a webinar on it on our YouTube channel from last year. And so if anyone is interested in producing for profit rather than just to offset their utility bill consumption, you can check out our small scale generation regulation webinar from last year's solar show. And that gives you an opportunity to overproduce. There are more hoops you have to jump through if you want to overproduce. And I guess the gist of it is when the government enabled folks to produce solar to offset their on-site consumption, what they took out was a whole bunch of red tape. And so as a result, you can produce for your own purposes to consume in your home by just going through a couple months of paperwork. Whereas if you want to produce for power and you want to be more like a power plant, you're going to have an extended commissioning process, an extended process, and more hoops you have to jump through. And that's, of course, just to make sure that the grid can accept and manage what you have to offer, because sometimes the grid can't handle everything you want to give it. And also, of course, to make sure that they know exactly where all the energy is coming from in the grid. Does anyone want to add anything to that topic of Bob's? Leanne or Grace, anything to add to that?
No, I think you answered it quite well, so it's all good on my end.
Yeah, I will say it's fairly common across the country that for micro generators, it'll be based on your on-site consumption. And then if you want to switch to become a power plant, you have a different process you have to use. Not all of our members will be comfortable or familiar working with the small scale generation regulation. So definitely use our request for proposal system on our website to try and figure out who might be a good match for you if they have some experience in using that system. It's relatively new and not a lot of folks have been through it. But the government of Alberta assured me that that is exactly why they created that regulation, was to support folks like you, Bob. So hopefully they're willing to work with you on that, and hopefully your wire provider is too. Okay, let's see here. Next up, I'm just gonna put the most upvoted. Kathy's got a question. Thanks, Kathy. So what is the typical payback for residential solar panel installations? I think we touched on that in the presentation a bit. It's, 5, 10, 15 years. It actually completely depends on all the different factors there. Leanne, I think you covered quite a few factors in the presentation. I suspect this question might have been entered right before that slide was added. Anything you want to add on the typical payback period though?
No, not really. I guess just to add on, like to reiterate what I said in the presentation, it just really depends on your electricity consumption as well. So there's different ways you can lower that payback period by just becoming more efficient in your own usage. So
Yeah, that's a good point. We did have actually a workshop on that last June on our YouTube channel. I think it's optimizing your solar PV array. So if you want to pay it off sooner, there's a lot of energy efficiency techniques and reduced energy use techniques you can use to kind of make that payback a shorter period. But again, it really depends so much, I think, on the mechanism you use to finance your array. And some people are getting access to grants and whatnot, depending on their municipality or if they were able to get the federal grant before it was gone. And so their payback period is going to look considerably different from folks who didn't get that grant access. So, all right, question here from Brina. For new homes or homeowners, how is the annual consumption amount calculated? Or do they use something else when determining the maximum size of the PV array? I was in that situation, actually. So we bought a new home and we were moving in from an apartment. And we hadn't paid our utility bills in the apartment because it was all part of the condo fees at the time. So there was no previous history. So if you're moving into a new home and you have a previous history from your old home, often they can look at that and they'll use that. So I do have a neighbor where I believe their system was sized based on their old home consumption. Whereas mine was just done based on a typical average. So my installer and most installers in the province should be able to calculate based on just the average for your type of house. And I think we were allowed a 7 kilowatt array based on the specs for our new home and the number of people living here. So there was kind of a standard rate for new homeowners. Anything to add to that, Grace or Leanne, in terms of the new homeowner piece? Yeah, it's often just based on averages. And the 7 kilowatt system size that we gave in the presentation is kind of the province-wide sort of average that people usually go with. So, but again, it depends a little bit on your particular home, and your installer will know the answer to that. It also might change a little bit depending on which region of the province you're in, because we have different wire providers, right? So I suspect the Edmonton installers have been in conversation with EPCOR and they know what the new home size is. And then I think the Calgary installers have been in touch with NMAX and they know what their new home, and because it will differ as well, depending what part of the province you're in. So definitely check with our installers to find out what it is for your region of the province. Okay, here we go. Can excess power created go toward carrying charges? I live in the country and that often exceeds actual power consumption. If not, why not? Transmission and distribution, I think, is what you mean by carrying charges. We were just having some fun with that this week because in many provinces across Canada, they have something called net metering, and you can use that towards transmission and distribution. But in Alberta, Manitoba, and Yukon, you cannot. We have something called net billing. And net billing means that you can only offset your electricity component of your bill. You can't offset the transmission and distribution piece. So in Alberta, if you want to get rid of the distribution and transmission piece, your only mechanism really is to go off grid, which of course then you don't make any of the financial benefits from the grid. So it's quite a costly alternative. So why not? That you'd have to speculate on, but it's considered. Dr. Sarah Hastings-Simons did a paper on this. She said in net billing provinces like Alberta, solar homeowners typically will be able to only make they'll make about 30% less than you might in BC or Ontario or places with net metering. So it's a tough question, but it's just what's politically palatable, I think, in your province, and whether or not other ratepayers, other people who pay for electricity, are willing to kind of cut you that check, right? So in Alberta, they're not willing to pay for the distribution and transmission, and ultimately those wires still exist. And so people in Alberta kind of believe generally that if those wires are there and they're to your home, then you have to chip in for that. That might change over time. Maybe Alberta will change to a net metering system and let you benefit on the transmission and distribution side. Maybe not. At this point, that's just the way it is, and I don't anticipate that changing in the near future. Grace, Leanne, anything to add on that net billing, net metering component? I know it's contentious and political.
No, good on my end.
Mhm. Oh, Grace froze, but now you're back.
I'm back. I was going to add, yeah, that is a bummer that that we can't generate more than we consume or apply our credits to our entire bill. But something that you can do in addition, well, like Leanne was mentioning earlier, you can reduce your electricity consumption and increase your energy efficiency. And you can also move your energy consumption 2 times when your solar system is producing a lot of power, because then you're just never going to be drawing any power from the grid anyway, because you're just going to be using within your home what you're producing at that time. So if you run your dryer in the middle of the day, then you're going to get the most benefit from your system, because you're never sending it back into the system to get credits. You're just using your power right then. So that is something that you can do. But yeah, like Heather mentioned, we just kind of have to see if it gets better, but it could.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point, Grace, that there is a component of the transmission and distribution that is variable. It's just not the entire piece. But there is a component that actually, if you're using less electricity from the grid, part of your distribution and transmission bill will go down. So you're quite right that you can be strategic. Also, there are some good things about Alberta's system. So a couple of good things here is we do have this solar specific pricing option. That's not really available in all of the other net billing provinces. So the solar specific pricing piece is a financial benefit for Alberta that others don't really have. The other thing is some provinces won't even give you one-to-one. So if you're paying this much for your electricity, in some provinces, they'll only let you have 50% back. So the fact that Alberta is at least having a one-to-one net billing system is actually beneficial and better than some provinces. So the other piece I understand, some provinces, they don't necessarily allow you to carry your credit over from year to year, whereas here there is either credit carryover, or sometimes they'll just pay you out that excess. So there's a lot of things that are not perfect about our system, but we still have a lot of really good things going for us too, which is part of why we're seeing such a massive growth of solar in Alberta, because our system isn't perfect, but it's still actually really great compared to some jurisdictions. All right, Rolando has a question here. What happens if I would like to upgrade my solar system since I upgraded my electrical devices at home, or am planning to do so? The initial calculations will be based on my current consumption or my future consumption. Great question. Had this happen myself. So we got a solar system before we could afford an electric vehicle. Then we were able to get an electric vehicle. Now we can increase the size of our solar system. So what your installer will do is they will look at your more recent year of consumption to get a more average. But if you like really recently bought your electric vehicle, then there's actually just a standard kind of process that an installer can follow. You do have to have that bill of sale though. Like a down payment for an electric vehicle won't count. Down payment for electric devices won't count. Electric hot tub. You literally have to have the bill of sale. So we do actually have a blog about that for things like that. If you've upgraded electrical and you've gone with a heat pump, there are other calculations required. So we have a blog about that as well. So check out our blog on our homepage. But heat pumps are a little bit different. If they're calculating to include a heat pump, you either need to have a full year's usage to demonstrate your new usage pattern, or you can have no auxiliary natural gas. And so if you have no auxiliary natural gas, then they can incorporate the heat pump. But if you do have an auxiliary natural gas system in addition to your heat pump, they're probably going to look for either a full year's usage to show that you're actually using your heat pump, or they're going to want to know that your home is energy efficient enough that you're going to be using your heat pump. So you'll have to demonstrate some energy efficiency principles. And so we do have a blog on that because we're getting a lot of questions about heat pumps and EVs, and they're a little bit different. And so the wire providers work with your installer to basically figure out what your new consumption will be. So when you're upsizing, you're going to be chatting with your installer about what they think you could qualify for now based on your new consumption. and they're going to let you know what your local wire provider will allow and will permit. And they are in constant conversation with them about that sort of thing. Anything to add in terms of upgraded devices or added devices there, Leanne and Grace? I'll tell you, it's been interesting going through that myself a little bit. Okay, question here. Can you install solar on a cedar roof? Should a homeowner wait until they install a new roof before doing a solar upgrade? We have a couple members who will do a cedar roof, a lot who won't. So that you're gonna have to shop around. So you're gonna want to use the directory for a cedar roof. A couple will do it, not all. It's just kind of niche. And should a homeowner wait until they install a new roof before doing a solar upgrade? It depends. It always depends. People are going to constantly say that because, of course, we have many members who will do both at the same time. They'll offer a full roof and solar kind of combined product. Obviously, with solar lasting 25 years or more, inevitably you're going to have to swap out your roof at some point regardless. So I guess the question is, how many times are you going to have it disassembled and reassembled, right? So a lot of people, if their roof is getting to be old, will do it at the same time. But if your roof isn't that old, then either way, you're going to probably eventually have to swap it out. So you might as well just give her and go for the solar right now. Anything to add on that roof piece, Leanne and Grace?
I was just gonna say that installing on a cedar roof is possible. There are definitely attachments and everything out there that will attach to the roof on cedar roofs, but like you said, it's comfortability with the installers. Cedar isn't like terribly common anymore. So yeah, just finding an installer who's comfortable with that and who has done it in the past is your best option for that. But yeah, and then another thing is what I've heard from other installers is if your roof is on its way out basically and you need to get it replaced, definitely do it before you put solar on, because if it comes down to needing to replace the roof when the solar is already installed, it's going to have to come down again. So it's just a big process, and it just eliminates that headache of doing all of that. So
yeah. That said, it's not impossible to put it up, take it down, put it back up, and people do it. And so, you can still go ahead. But yeah, that's a really good point, Leanne. You have to be thoughtful about that and have a frank conversation with your solar installers about that and see what they think. We do have a presentation tomorrow morning called Solar Ready Design. It will discuss some of the preferable roof considerations. The one that everyone loves is, I think it's called standing seam metal roof, because you don't even have to penetrate the roof. You can just clip the solar on. So then there's zero penetration. So the risks are like much lower, and there's lots of wonderful efficiencies there. So yeah, good questions about roofs. Another question here. Is there any required maintenance for solar panels? Oh, great question. Almost none. I haven't touched mine in 5 years. They are so awesome. I mean, you do want to monitor your apps and make sure that they're actually working, because, occasionally something might go wrong and you might notice that, hey, wait a minute, something's off here. And then that's why you want a workmanship warranty. You want that company to come back and check what's going on there. But for the most part, there's almost zero maintenance. The rain will kind of wash off the dust and you just kind of let it roll. So my answer for a home is no. My answer for a business is there are some maintenance considerations when you have a much larger array, especially if you might be on a flat roof. So we do actually have a workshop from last year's solar show about operating and maintaining like a large commercial system where you might want to be more particular about maintenance. But for a typical homeowner, you kind of just want to leave it alone, because the more you're messing around with it, like Leanne said in her last slide, the more you might actually do damage. Anything you two want to add on the maintenance piece, though?
Just to pop in here, my work, my place of employment actually has an array on the roof right now, and it's been up there for 12 years, and they've practically never touched it, and it still operates great. So
yeah, it's like plug and play, hey? Just as long as it's working out the get-go, right? You want to make sure that everything looking good on your app, and most of the installers will like get you a an app on your phone, and you can nerd out on that and have a look at how you're producing and everything. And so that's pretty great. Just gonna check here. We've got 10 minutes to go, and I'm just gonna make sure we're getting to the most upvoted questions. Oh, with ATCO piloting a time of use rate, how long can we expect it will be for Alberta to go fully to time of use rates like most of the world? Oh, we would love that. Actually, this would be a great question for our Thursday session. We're going to be having a lunch hour session all about energy storage in Alberta. And one of the presenters, EPCOR, is going to be talking a little bit about their virtual power plants. And we're going to really be getting into some of those sort of benefits of having a smarter grid and a smarter systems that encourage people to be strategic about their energy use. I don't know how long it'll be. This government does seem open to those conversations, I will say. Even though they're not the most solar friendly government in the world, they do seem to be interested in talking about demand side management and things of that nature. So it might not be too far off and of course, with the wire providers like ATCO and EPCOR piloting a lot of things, that's another indicator that we're heading in that direction. So I'm optimistic, but I'm also an eternal optimist. How about you, Grace and Leanne? Any thoughts to share on time of use rates and whether we might be heading in that direction anytime soon? It's just a crystal ball kind of question.
I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I wish I did. Yes. But I think Ontario makes really good use of time of use rates. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
It could be good. It's just, something to keep an eye on.
Keep an eye on and keep asking your MLA for. I mean, the more they hear about that, the more likely they are to move on it. So I think it's great that it's on your radar. Okay, another topic here we have. Okay. How can a solar installer get added to Solar Alberta's list of contractors? Oh, well, we have a membership button on our website. You can just become a member as long as you're willing to abide by our code of conduct. That is our primary criteria. So review our code of conduct, sign up as a member, fill out your directory listing, and you're welcome. You don't have to have projects before you're added. Our directory is actually full of lots of different people, and we even have consultants there. We have lots of solar related folks there. So even if you haven't made 1 million installations yet, you're still welcome. It will give you an opportunity to celebrate installations if you have made some. And so that will build trust with the community. But yeah, we welcome all members as long as they're willing to abide by our code of conduct. All right, Kathy's got a upvoted question here. How do solar panels fare during hailstorms? What happens when you need a new roof for your house? And do the panels have to be removed and replaced? So we touched on the last two questions. We didn't touch much about hail. So solar is tested for hail. So if it's a normal hail, then it's good. In fact, there are parts of the province where car dealerships, farms, other places where they actually use solar to kind of protect cars or animals from those types of extreme weather, because solar is tested for regular hail. If you're talking about golf ball size hail, nothing is safe from that. So yes, you will need insurance to cover that size of hail. So definitely normal hail, great. Extreme hail, nothing is going to withstand that, and solar included. So they are not they're not completely unstoppable, depending how big your hail gets, but they do actually fare extremely well and a lot better than most people expect in a hailstorm. So in fact, they can kind of protect your roof too. So in a regular hailstorm, you're probably better off to have solar than not. Anything to add about hail, Leanne and Grace? I know you folks probably have dealt a lot more with hail than I have in Edmonton, but
just kind of like circling back to the array that we have on the roof here. I'm in Calgary, so it's literally never been damaged in a hailstorm, and we've had a few pretty crazy ones where cars and stuff were damaged, and the solar panels definitely held up. So
amazing. That's really nice. It's good to hear those anecdotes. How about you, Grace?
Yeah, when I was selling solar, 1 million years ago, when we sold SILFAB panels, they tested them with golf ball sized hail at a 90-degree impact. so which would never happen. And they did stand up to that. So solar
Wow.
panels are quite resilient.
So maybe
But
I
I
should
mean,
change. I shouldn't say golf ball size. I should say fist-sized hail.
yeah,
So they can do
but
golf
yeah,
balls.
they can, but I wouldn't say that they could do multiple golf ball sized hail impacts, like that's a
Yeah.
lot. Like you said, nothing's safe from that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's good to hear. Okay. Bob's got another great question here. Let's see. I just heard long-term improvement to your house. Are you recommending a roofing product other than asphalt shingles prior to installation? Yes. So that's in our presentation, Solar Ready Design tomorrow. You will hear almost every solar installer I've talked to will say standing seam metal is the best. Standing seam, and it's like across the board. Every board member I've ever asked at Solar Alberta is like, please, that would be so great. They'll do asphalt, no problem, but they will always prefer not having to penetrate your roof. So if they can clip the solar on, that is always better from most of our installers' perspectives. I haven't polled them all on this question, but I've heard from like at least 5 to 10 of them that they pretty consistently say that the standing seam metal is nicer for solar installation, just like a really clean, easy install. So anything you folks wanted to add further on that roof piece? A couple questions are a little repetitive. We're going to do 1 or 2 more here. If my annual electricity use goes up, for example, I install a heat pump, can I expand my solar system? Yes. I did mention earlier, you'll have to either show that you are exclusively using a heat pump or that you have a full year's evidence that you're using your heat pump primarily if you have an auxiliary natural gas system. But yes, you can expand your solar system. Your installer will just have to demonstrate to the wire provider that you have increased your electricity use. And that's the same for hot tubs. That's the same for electric vehicles. It's just slightly different in terms of how they prove it. They will prove your usage in a different way depending on when you bought it, how long you've had it, and whether they can use your utility bills to show the increased use or whether they have to show bills of sale and other things. So definitely possible though, and I am in the process of doing that. Of course, it depends on your roof space too. You might run out of roof space if you don't have enough room on your roof for more, but anyways, that's another conversation for another day. Let's do this one last question from Joel. Is there a safe way to clear your solar panels of snow? Oh, fun. I live in Lake Louise and my south-facing roof has snow on it from November to April. I already have a solar hot water panel on my south-facing roof and clear it regularly with a snow rake in the winter to keep it working. I would like to be able to do the same with other solar panels. We just recommend against it. As Leanne mentioned in her last slide, you're likely to do more damage than it's worth. November to April are the lowest producing months, and so you're not really negatively impacting your production that much. Also, it's going to melt off, hopefully. I guess it depends a little bit on the angle of your roof, but as soon as it warms up, it should be melting off. So we recommend against it. There are some products out there that can help you with that if you're interested. You can probably hit up our Facebook group. But we wouldn't recommend it. So there are definitely people at our Facebook group who like to make recommendations like that, but we worry that you're going to damage yourself and also your panels by trying, and it's not worth it for 3% more production per year. Any additional thoughts on that piece, Leanne or Grace? All right. Oh, we do have 1 more minute. Let's see here. Carolyn says, trying to figure out a strategy for home solar because of the microgen limit for homes. Should you install solar first, then you're buy your EV and heat pump, then you can add more solar panels to accommodate your increased electricity use? I'm going to say something that my board might hate me for. Do the EV first, do the heat pump first, do the solar last, because every time you have to invite someone back to upsize your array, you have to pay for their time to come back and do a redesign and do all of this, right? So if you think about it, like if they can come once after you have all those things, great. However, if you're like me and you don't know if you can ever afford an EV, then you just want to get your solar, then just do it. So it kind of depends on your situation, right? But generally speaking, if you can afford to do your heat pump first, if you can afford to do your EV first, then you're going to be able to get your bigger solar array right out the gate, and you don't have to pay for people to come back multiple times and redesign and reorient and all that jazz. One thing we frequently recommend, though, is if you are getting solar and thinking about getting those things later just for affordability reasons, make sure your installer knows. And I made that mistake. We didn't tell our installer, we're going to get an EV at some point. So when they sized our home, they didn't design it very well. And there's a whole bunch of wasted space. And if they knew we were going to increase our consumption, they probably would have designed it so that they put the solar right at the edge and left as much possible room for our expansion as possible. They also probably would have done some different work in terms of our inverter and our electrical and all that if they knew that eventually we were going to be upgrading. So if you can't afford to do the EV and heat pump first, that's fine. Still go ahead with the solar, but communicate that to your installer so that they make sure your roof is ready for more when you're ready for more. But yeah, definitely if you can do a one-stop shop, that's always more affordable and better. Grace, Leanne, anything to add on that topic?
I would agree with you. I think that it's probably not popular advice with solar installers to say, like, wait on your solar until later. But if it were me, I would get my EV first if I could afford it, and then size my system to like right size it to my actual consumption, because it would just be easier to do the one-stop shop, like you said, Heather, than to get people to come out more often.
Especially if you have enough room on your roof. I guess that's the other factor. A lot of our members, if you go in our directory and you're wanting to consider an EV, a lot of our members do EV chargers. And if you want to consider a heat pump, we've also started asking our members to put on the directory if they do heat pumps. So you can get started with some of the solar related folks or solar installers, and some of them might be able to provide multiple services or have mutual referral relationships where they can kind of help you along in a bit of a seamless path. A lot of the deep energy retrofit folks, the green home builders and retrofit folks on our website also, they can take you through that journey together. And on Friday morning, we're actually having a session about how to sequence your net zero build. So if your goal is net zero instead of just solar, then you want to come on Friday morning to talk about sequencing and what you should do first, second, third, especially if you can't afford everything all at once. That's what our Friday morning session is all about. So this has been really fun. Grace, I'm so glad that your audio started working and you're able to join us. And Leanne, thank you for presenting today. And really, again, want to thank Spot Power in a big way, Solar Club rather, and Solar Club in a big way for sponsoring today. Dan, really nice to have your support for this presentation. And of course, to all of our attendees, and great questions. We could probably go on for hours and hours. If you have any more questions, just feel free to email us, office@solar.ca, solaralberta.ca, sorry. And we're happy to keep this dialogue going. That's what we're here for. That's why we exist. So we exist for this conversation. So keep it going. Send us your emails, fire us, give us a phone call, and we'll keep the conversation going. So thanks again, Leanne and Grace, and have a wonderful day, everyone.